What is the most important thing that makes up for youth? Sincere enthusiasm for the future. Strong friendships. Or a relationship? No, these things are illusory to me, but they are not enough. There are many incomprehensible situations between people. In other words, it is very difficult to meet someone who can understand you. But for me, if you ignore the desire to understand each other, then the so-called love loses its meaning. He opened the letter. It said, "Apprentice by Chiao, can I spend some of your time after school? If you can, please come to the tennis court, I want to talk to you, from the person you like." Bai wondered how to handle this sudden love. I think it's a headache to get a declaration of love. Bai went to the tennis court after school, and there was a student named Yao Yao waiting for him. Bai saw her and wondered, "Is that you? If it's an activity report, just put it in the Cooperation Council." She told him, "If you play dumb again, I'll kill you if you don't listen to me." But Bai didn't want to talk to her and was about to leave her. Suddenly she grabbed his jacket and said, "Come here." Yao Yao hugged him and told him she loved him. Bai was shocked and didn't know what to say. She asked, "Will you be my boyfriend?" Bai wondered, "I can't believe this is really a confession, I can't avoid it, should I accept it? But I don't want to fall in love yet, if I refuse, she's the archery club champion. I'll surely die today." She got tired of waiting for an answer and asked him again, "Answer, will you be my boyfriend?" Bai didn't know what to answer, he just wanted to get away from this conversation. Bai was a strong man who had been through many battles. He is the best when it comes to escaping. He took her shoulder and said, "I'm sorry, but I already have someone I like." They synchronously said these words to the other girl. The girl who was standing nearby said, "I'm sorry." As it turned out, that girl was talking to another boy. Yao Yao pointed her finger at them and said, "Are you going to use the same excuse? What were you going to say now?" Bai replied, simply, "But I'm really in love with someone." Yao Yao asked, "Tell me who you love. If you don't tell me, I will confess my love to you every day. I will go to your house and confess, I will go to your class to confess, I will go to the student council room to confess my love." Yao Yao looked at him with a penetrating look and asked who he was in love with. Bai decided to lie to her and said that he was in love with Senior Ning Yishue. "Yes, I like Ning Yishue." Yao Yao replied, "If it's her, it's okay. I don't think she knows you, you two can't have a relationship, besides, she's going to leave this school next year, I'm very upset by this news. That's why even if you don't like me now, I'll try to gradually like you in the future." Yao Yao left and said she would pick him up tomorrow morning. Bai thought, what did she just mean? At night Bai decided to stay at school. He thought about this situation with Yao Yao. Bai was sure that his youth was a problem. At that moment, Student Council President Tang Xin came up to him. Bai saw her and wondered why she hadn't gone home yet. She sat down beside him and asked what he was doing here at this hour. Bai said he volunteered to stay to help with Student Council business. Tang Xin looked at him and said, "You're such a good man, let's consider this a reward for working overtime today," and handed him a cup of coffee. Bai said he didn't need it because his mom told him that drinking coffee at night was bad for his health. She said one cup of coffee wouldn't do anything. "I was kind enough to make coffee for the vice president and you don't appreciate that." He took the cup of coffee in his hands and said, "I will definitely remember your kindness to me." Tang Xin replied, "From the moment you said something kind, I'm sure you will reciprocate now, right?" Bai was in a stupor. Is it really another love letter? Tang Xin hugged him and asked what he thought of love letters. Bai was puzzled. Does she know about the love letter Yao Yao wrote me? Or maybe the love letter on the table was written by her and she realized I hadn't read it and decided to remind me of it. Tang Xin moved even closer to him and fully embraced him and said that Bai did not answer her question. She asked me again, "What did you think of this love letter?" The vice president didn't answer my question. Bai was puzzled. he didn't know what was going on. At that moment, someone knocked on the door. But she kept hugging him. She said, "Does that mean you want me to hug you tighter?" She hugged him even tighter and took his button. Bai began to gasp from such a tight embrace. Tang Xin said, "Come in, the one behind the door." At this moment a classmate came in and saw Tang Xin hugging Bai tightly. He was in a stupor and didn't know what to say. He exclaimed that he came in at the wrong time and he should go. Bai shouted that it wasn't what he thought it was. At this time she let him go and said problem solved. Bai wondered, what was the problem? She replied, "If you get 25 love letters a month you understand me, since the vice president is the only boy I know well, I can hold you responsible for that." I almost forgot, how can the vice president get love letters? It's too much to ask you to understand my feelings. Bai replied, "Haven't you thought about my personal safety?" Tang Xin said, "I will offer you my scent." She picked up the phone and looked at Bai. Bai wondered, what are you going to do? She took his hands and asked why he was looking at her like that. Am I a sinner? Tang Xin told him to close his eyes and not to peek. But Bai had a bad feeling and decided to peep at what she was doing there. She noticed that he was peeping. Tang Xin said, "If you peep, it could cause a real bloodstorm here." Tang Xin gathered up her hair and picked up a rubber band. She took off her jacket and shirt, while Bai was standing with his back to her. She continued to take off her clothes. Bai could hear her clothes falling to the floor. Bai said, "What's that damn president up to? What's that strange noise?" Tang Xin came up to him and asked again, "What is that strange noise? Is it the noise the vice president was expecting?" She turned him around to face her and said he could now open his eyes. She stood there in a black tight dress and asked him what he thought of her dress. Bai said she looked beautiful, but why is she changing in the study again, since someone might see her? Tang Xin replied that she was in a hurry and she had a dinner party at home tonight, so she knew what to do and she didn't change in the study. This dress could be folded to fit into the school uniform. She wanted to show how this dress could be wrapped under the school uniform, but Bai stopped her and said there was no need to show her anything. Bai said, "I thought the president was in a hurry, how can you be so slow?" At that moment she remembered that she had ripped a button off his shirt. She reached out her hand to him and said, "The vice president is very careless as a student council member, it's not right to throw his discipline and button open." Tang Xin secured his shirt with a silver pin. Bai was seen, "When did my button come off?" Tang Xin said it was an extra reward for him conscientiously agreeing to stay working overtime. She was about to leave and asked him to finish the overtime. She walked out of the office and smiled wickedly, "I finally got it." Bai was alone in the study and wondered if it wasn't a love letter from Tang Xin, then who was it from? He opened the letter and it said, "Bai Chiao, if you have time after school, can you go to a nearby cafe?" The letter was written from Ning, the queen of our school. If today's horoscope is to be believed, there will be another confession. He came to a nearby cafe and sat down next to Ning. He asked, "Miss Ning, were you looking for me?" Ning said that Yao Yao came to see her today, but the main thing now is that you like me, and then she also explained to me in detail your shortcomings and the reasons why you and I can't be together. Bai choked on his coffee. She asked if you were okay. He said he was fine, and it's not what you think. Ning said, "Then I guess it's just your random excuse to say no to her." "Right, thanks for the insight. I'm sorry I used the fact that I like you as an excuse, I hope you'll forgive me." She slammed the book shut and said, "I wanted to ask you, will you be my boyfriend?" Bai was totally puzzled and asked, "You must be kidding." Ning replied, "I'm not joking, I mean for you to pretend to be my boyfriend." Bai asked surprised, "Pretended?" "Yes, pretend." Yao Yao confessed to you, she didn't give up even after being rejected and there's nothing you can do about it, right? So we can pretend to be a couple, and that's the best way to get other people to give up. Bai said surprisingly, Miss Ning wants to help me, but is it true that by rejecting someone, that person won't die? Miss Ning took a deep breath and said that her situation is much more complicated than his and it's just a suggestion. She asked not to worry about it so much, just think about it. I'll meet you here tomorrow morning, I'll wait for your answer. The next day Bai was sound asleep, her little sister went over to his bed and turned off the alarm clock. She decided to sit on it, but at the last moment he woke up and wondered why she was dressed like that again. What did she want to do again? She replied that she had gone to bed without a bath last night and she liked his ugly panda eyes. Bai apologized to her for making her uncomfortable. She looked at him with sweet eyes and said he smelled very nice. Bai said he didn't want to mess with her and it was time for him to brush his teeth. In the bathroom she hugged him and wouldn't let him go. He asked her how long she was going to keep him. She looked at him again and said, "Brother doesn't even want to give me time to warm up." Bai asked her not to say such misleading words. For breakfast his little sister made him some eggs, she asked if he liked them. Bai said he was sure that it was an amazing scrambled egg. During breakfast, Bai asked her what she does with guys who profess their love for her. Sis replied that she usually rejects them. He asked, "What do you do if the rejected man doesn't give up after rejection?" She replied, "I would tell them I already had a boyfriend, and if they didn't believe me, then I showed them a picture of my little brother." Bai thought about her words and Miss Ning's suggestion, is this the only way? Yao Yao was waiting for him outside the house, she was standing there upset and thinking, why hasn't Bai come out yet? At that moment he came out of the entrance and saw Yao Yao, he was surprised, did she really come here? Bai decided to run away from her. But she jumped on him and they fell to the ground. Bai thought, what kind of romantic comedy has my life turned into? After a while, Yao Yao took Bai by the hand and dragged him to the Kyoto Association performance. He asked why she dragged him there. Yao Yao said, "I spend a lot of time and effort to ask you out and take you on a date." "Hey, what kind of date? Besides, I don't have couples in the morning." Suddenly Yao Yao stopped, she saw some guy in the distance, he waved at her. Yao Yao said indignantly, "Him again?" Bai asked in surprise, "Who was he?" Suddenly he turned to Bai and said, "Honey, it's a good thing you walked me out, it's so hot outside, will you wait for me backstage?" Bai disdainfully replied, "Yao Yao, you've changed so suddenly, it makes me feel uncomfortable." Yao Yao said, "If you don't play along with me, the Kudo Club will take you hostage and use you as a target for training. I'll go get ready, you watch my purse, darling." "Alright, I'll wait for you backstage with your purse." At that moment, the blonde guy told his friends that he had to go. He walked up to Bai and asked, "You must be Vice Chairman Bai of Jinnan Polytechnic?" "I'm Lin Gu, head of the Duden Kudo Circle, already heard about you from Yao Yao, I didn't think we would meet here." Bai greeted him respectfully and thought to himself, where did this friendliness come from? Lin Gu said, "Today you saw off Yao Yao, she must have caused you a lot of trouble, but since I invited Yao Yao, I'll see her back after the meeting so you don't have to worry too much." Bai wondered, is he trying to manipulate me like this? Lin Gu said, "Time is precious, Deputy Bai, if you are not interested in watching the performance, then go back, I will explain everything Yao Yao for you." Bai did not hold out his hand and said, "I think you do not understand, I received an invitation from the student union, and as for who will see off Yao Yao, it has nothing to do with me. So it has nothing to do with you either. I'm going." "Interesting, I have nothing to worry about." Yao Yao watched their conversation and was fascinated by Bai's words. An hour later, Yao Yao's performance began. Bai sat behind her and wondered when the performance would end. Suddenly Yao Yao's bag fell from his hands, some books fell out of her bag. Bai decided to put the books back in the bag and was greatly surprised, as Yao Yao was reading books on methods of wooing guys. At that moment he heard someone else talking in the other room. They were talking about how Yao Yao is taking advantage of the fact that she has a pretty face and she's arrogant and thinks she's always right. Leave it alone, everyone already thinks I'm wrong and okay. How can you leave it like that? We need to teach this self-righteous girl a lesson, let her restrain herself. Bai was quietly listening to their conversation. One of the girls said, "Is it nothing, Chief Lin, you only got slapped in the face for nothing." Lin replied, "Oh, it's nothing, I don't want you to look for trouble on your head because of me." Bai saw Lin and wondered if it was that guy. Suddenly Yao Yao came up to him and asked what he was doing here. Bai said, "If I told you I was listening to gossip, would you believe me?" Yao Yao replied, very suspiciously, "Bai, you're not peeping on girls, are you?" "No, I've already peeped on girls today, I've been eyeballing all of them." Yao Yao put him on the bench and said, "From now on you'll only look at me, understand? But since you played along with me today, I'll reward you by helping a pretty girl put her socks on. If you do, you can go home." Bai didn't want to do it. At that moment, Yao Yao exclaimed that her feet were clean and he wasn't even interested in what he was being rewarded for. Bai said she had it all wrong. He wanted to say that he doesn't like that at all. But she took out her bow and arrow and asked, "Do you like that?" Bai knew he had no choice, so he took her white socks and pulled them over her leg. Bai jokingly said, "To put on a beautiful girl is indeed a great honor." Yao Yao said, "It's good that you understand that. But today I really want to thank you for seeing me off." At that moment Bai asked her, "Do you know Lin Gu well?" She was very happy and asked, "Are you jealous of me?" Yao Yao said that Lin Gu is a member of the club from another school. "I've never talked to him much, but yesterday he started hitting on me. That's why I slapped him. I don't know what he said to the others, but today at the show a lot of people were unhappy about my presence. It turns out that they discuss everything behind their backs, then we should." At that moment he looked at Yao Yao and wondered, has she fallen asleep? Or is she pretending to be asleep? He looked into her face and moved closer to her. Yao Yao wondered if we were going to kiss, but at the last moment he put her head on his briefcase. Bai was about to leave, but she was furious and stopped him. She said, "You know absolutely nothing about girls' hearts. If you notice a girl sweet asleep, shouldn't you gently take her by the hand and carry her home?" Bai replied to her, "Again some story from a women's magazine?" Yao Yao was puzzled. Did he really see my women's magazines? I'll go home and change my clothes and you go back to school alone." Bai went to school and on the way he thought, despite the fact that Lin Gu was cheating on 3 girls, shame on him becomes me. I have to prevent what these 3 girls are planning to do to Yao Yao, but why am I haunted by the feeling that something is wrong? But when I met him he acted so that I would leave early, and then he would let these girls loose. At this time the 3 girls stopped Yao Yao and told her, "Since we met, that means you know about what's going on, right?" Yao Yao asked them what they were up to, because she didn't even know them. Suddenly one of the girls slapped her and said, "Now you know us, that's a slap for the head of Lin." Yao Yao replied, "So it's you, trash likes to pile up." The girl took her shirt and said, "Who else is trash here?" Yao Yao said, "Of course it's you and this Lin, a pile of garbage." The girl swung her arm again and exclaimed, "Shut your mouth." But at the last moment Bai grabbed her hand and said, "Do you like being controlled?" But the girl slapped Bai in the face and said, "I have a love affair with the elder Lin Gu, what do you care about him? Who are you anyway?" Bai looked at her. She said, "What are you staring at?" Yao Yao came up to him and said, "You have nothing to do with this, you should leave." Suddenly he took her in his arms and said they would leave together. Yao Yao looked at him with loving eyes and cried. At that moment the girl exclaimed, "But what about payback? Do you think you can just walk away like that?" Bai deeply exhaled and said, Lin Gu already come out, it's already bad enough, but if I find you myself, it will be much worse. Lin Gu came out and asked, was it Vice President Bai Chiao said. I did not start all this, I was just passing by. Suddenly, Bai with all his strength hit Lin Gu, and he flew away a few meters from such a blow. Bai said, I'm returning your slap, next time think before you do something, otherwise everyone will know about your actions, understood? Lin Gu asked, what other deeds? Bai replied, I have a recording from the sports complex cameras of you hitting on Yao Yao, think about it. Lin Gu apologized to him and said there won't be a next time. The three girls heard it all, they said it was a shame for Lin Gu, they called him a loser who didn't deserve their love. Yao Yao happily hugged Bai and they left there. They came to the river, Yao Yao gave him a cold Coke and told him to put it on his face, because it would be hard to explain if someone saw him with a bruise on his face. Yao Yao asked him how he knew what those girls were up to. Bai replied that Lin Gu had originally turned them against you by making them look pathetic. And then he wanted to pretend to be the hero who saved the beautiful girl. Yao Yao sat down even closer and said, wow, are you the name, so you decided to go there to save the beautiful girl? Bai asked her, did I really save the beautiful girl? She asked in surprise, what do you mean? I figured since you're my hero, you'll be responsible for me, you're the hero I'll follow. In the evening Bai came home and was doing the dishes, at that time Yao Yao was texting him on the phone, she was asking him why he ran away from her. Bai thought what an awkward situation, if he hadn't run away he would have died on the spot. At that moment Bai's little sister came up to Bai and said, little brother, talking to the bad girl. Bai hid the phone from her and said it was an advertisement from the store. She looked at him with disdain and said, brother, your tone is questionable. Sis didn't believe him and took the phone from him by force. Shut up, I have to check. The password is not my birthday. Bro really is a fool. It's really an ad from an online store. But, for now your phone stays with me. Sis wanted to hide the phone with him, but the towel was too short and his phone fell on the floor. Bai and Lulu looked at his phone with surprise. Bai said, Lulu, can we do something else? What do you want to do? Lulu asked in surprise, what do you want to do? Lulu sat down on the couch and Bai put his head on her legs. Bai asked, are we really brother and sister, how come you have such a strange hobby? Bro, you said I can do whatever I want, besides, when I help others clean their ears, I experience a lot of emotions, could such a relaxing hobby be strange? At this time Lulu started brushing her brother's ears, she got so carried away as suddenly her towel started falling off her. Bai was shocked by this. Bai said he wanted to turn his back on her because he was going to send a message to some bad girl. He picked up his phone and saw a lot of unread messages. Bai saw them and thought, my campus environment is scary. Bai, I'm not going to school tomorrow, can I? Isn't tomorrow Saturday? Bro, did you forget that tomorrow is Saturday? You mean you forgot you're going to see my show tomorrow? The city's teen dance competition, I'm definitely going to your competition. Even though I forgot that tomorrow is Saturday, but I still felt that tomorrow was something important, so I was looking for an excuse not to go to campus. Do you have to go? I promise I'll come tomorrow. Then that's enough for today, I'm going to bed, see you tomorrow night at the theater. Bai opened his correspondence with the chairman, she wrote that tomorrow morning she would come to see him and they would have fun. Bai wondered if Lulu would see the chairwoman coming in the morning, my little sister would kill me. The next morning Bai sent his little sister off early to the theater, and Bai himself went to the library. Suddenly someone came up to him and offered him coffee. He didn't hesitate to take the coffee and thank the man. But at the last moment he sensed something wrong, a girl came up to him and said good morning. Bai turned his head and saw the chairwoman, he was shocked to see her. He asked her, How did she know he was hiding from her in the library? She replied, "Do you know why a hare gets trapped so easily?" Bai wondered, "Why is that?" "Because he is a coward. As soon as the hunter makes the slightest sound, the hare will immediately run in fear to the other side. At the same time, a clever hunter only needs to know a hare's habits to set a trap. And then the hare will fall into it of its own free will, right? Chairwoman, you're so smart, why haven't you found a boyfriend yet?" If I fall in love, then no one can get away from me." Bai embarrassedly asked, "So why were you looking for me?" "I wanted to see you." "And you wanted to ask me out on a blind date?" Bai replied, "I'm feeling a little under the weather today, so goodbye." At that moment she kicked his leg, Bai started to fall and she grabbed his arm. She asked him, "Bai, did you want to grab my hand? Do you really want me to scream? My dear deputy, is that really what you want?" Bai realized he was at a disadvantage and said he felt good. Tang Xian said he needed to meet with one person and only, he shouldn't be so nervous. Bai told her, "Do you know how many guys at school wanted to skin me when you used me as an excuse? I'm not going to get myself killed. How about this? I'll offer it to whoever goes to meet me today. It's a signal fire for re-release. The game isn't officially due out for 3 months, where did you get it? I knew you loved it, what were you saying before? Chairman Tang Xian, I'll go with you. By the way, and tell me about this terrible person, I need to know what to prepare for." Tai Xian answered, "His family is back from abroad, is on the list of the top 500 entrepreneurs in the world, do business together with my family. At the last banquet, our parents drank too much and said he and I were at that age to get to know each other better. This has happened before, but now I definitely have to say no." Bai said to her, "Why not take a closer look at him?" Bai wondered, because if she has a boyfriend, she'll stop bullying me all day long. Tai Xian hugged him and said, "It can't be, you're so interesting, I haven't played with you yet." Tai Xian, you always say such strange things. At this moment, someone came up to them and said, Tai Xian, I didn't expect to meet you. As it turned out, Miss Ning came up to them. Bai asked her what she was doing here. She said that luckily she was just passing by. I just remembered I forgot to give you this, take a look at the discount coupon period, don't forget to exchange it. Okay, I won't keep you two from your date. Bai was puzzled as he has to go to his sister's performance today, meet Miss Ning, and now he has to help Tai Xian. Bai took Tai Xian by the hand and said they had to hurry to the blind date. They ran into the restaurant, and there was a guy waiting for her. Tai Xian got tired of running that she'd forgotten the point. She introduced Bai as the deputy of the student union. We met by chance on the street and decided to eat for free. Chen Yu, you don't mind, do you? He said, Tai Xian, friends, my friends, of course I do not mind. At the same time he shot at Bai and thought, freeloader, and also dared to hold Tai Xian's hand. Tai Xian thought, Bai is really a fool, obviously he went with me to cover me as a shield. Now he doesn't mind chatting with his rival. She said, Bai, stop talking and eat. After lunch, we have other things to do. Chen Yu became jealous that Bai was sitting too close to her. He walked up to Bai and said, I don't know you well yet, why don't we have a drink and talk some more? This restaurant sells delicious dessert wine. At this time Chen slipped his wallet to Bai. Bai said he can't drink much. Chen said it's alright, I'm just offering to try it. At this time Tai Xing decided to drink wine too, to pretend to be drunk so that she could leave the restaurant quickly. She exclaimed that it was a great idea and good wine shouldn't be missed. Bai wondered, are we really going to drink? They raised their wine glasses and clinked them. Tai Xian decided to drink some wine and immediately pretend to be drunk. But at this moment, he looked at Bai and was very surprised, he was already drunk. Chen said that it's my fault and why did I offer to drink, I'll go pay the bill, can we send by home and go somewhere else for privacy ourselves? Tai Xian said, don't say that, I wasn't in the mood to talk to you even before. Chen went to pay the bill and at that moment Bai hugged her and told her she smelled very good. Tai Xian was embarrassed and told him not to talk like that. She asked him if he could stand up. She helped him stand up and at that moment Chen's purse fell out of Bai's pocket. He asked, have you seen my purse? I can't find it. Chen went up to them and said, I wonder why I can't find my purse, but it turns out that Bai has stolen it on the sly. Stealing is a crime, and you and I must obey the law. At this point, Bai couldn't hear the conversation and asked, who had their wallet stolen? You look for it while I pay for it. Chen said, do you think I want it from you? Since Bai is playing dumb, I'll call the police and let them sort it out. Tai Xian told him, if you keep up the act, I'll commit the real crime. He said you saw my wallet fall out of his pocket. You don't have to defend him, at which point she spiked him with her wine. Tai Xian said, now you come to your senses. The play is over. Who do you think you are? I don't care about your nastiness and your words towards my family as long as you stay out of my life. But if you ruin Bai's future, I won't stand for it. It's a good thing I figured you out sooner, or there'd be one more concrete pole under the bridge tomorrow. Chen said he understood her. Tai Xian hugged Bai and said it's all because of me. Come on, Bai, we're leaving. Tai Xian went outside with him and sat down on a bench. After a while he woke up and asked what time is it. She replied that it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Bai jumped up and said he was late for his little sister's performance. At that moment, she said she tricked him. Tai Xian said, you believe everything you're told, no wonder Chen almost set you up. Never trust anyone who wears a mask and smiles. Bai thanked her for getting him out of that situation at the restaurant. Tai Xian said, as a thank you, you should give yourself away. He lay on her lap and didn't know what to answer her. Suddenly he ran away from her and said he might be late for his sister's performance. But she caught up with him and said, okay, shall we take the subway? Bai said he only had one ticket. But Tai Xian got 2 VIP tickets. Bai had no more excuses so he had to go with her. He asked her, why is she holding her waist? She said because you're still drunk. Bai said he's sober now. After a while Tai Xian stopped and said she had to take off her shoes and her feet were tired. Bai looked at her feet. Tai Xian asked, where is he looking at that? Does he have secret hobbies? 15 minutes later they came to the performance. Suddenly Bai took Tai Xian's hand and said, look at my little sister, something is not going according to plan. While Lulu was dancing, the front of her skirt came undone, causing her dress to half open. Lin Gu stood backstage and smiled wickedly.